I'm just trying to record this. Okay, hi. Let's talk about carbs and food and diets and nutrition and restriction and moderation and all of the things today. So I'm going to attempt to try to condense this to just give you a ton of useful information that you can take and go back and watch this again and again. Grab a pen and paper if you need to. I've had a lot on my mind with the whole, how much do I eat? Can I eat carbs? Can I not eat carbs? How do I lose weight? All of that stuff. And I wanted to share that with you guys because a couple questions have come up in the last several days. And I really just wanted to address them. So anyway, so let's talk. All right. So first off, nutrition is key to getting results. We know that, right? Like, it's true. Abs are made in the kitchen. Yes, it does take a little bit of exercise. You can't just eat really healthy and then all of a sudden you're going to have abs. Obviously, it takes a little bit of work, but we can't just get it done with fitness alone. We have to really focus on how to nourish our body properly, how to fuel our body properly, depending on what our goals are too. And that tends to vary. And it's important to, have that conversation with me or your coach and talk about, okay, what are the goals that I want to achieve? Because nutrition does have an impact on that. So first and foremost, fueling our body every 2 to 4, 4 is a little much, 2 to 3 hours is key to help keep your metabolism up. So this is how our metabolism functions, right? We fuel our body ingests those calories, our body takes what we've ingested and turns them into food for our body, turns them into energy for our body. And that helps our body have energy. It helps our metabolism. A lot of times, if we aren't consuming enough food, like, let's think about this. Let's take it back to like 3rd grade photosynthesis. Plants need food. Food helps with photosynthesis. Plants then grow, sunlight, food, growth, right? So like we know as humans, we need sunlight, we need food in order to grow. We need food because it causes energy to happen within our body. So a lot of times if we're stuck at a plateau, if we're not losing weight, or, maybe we've gained weight and then we're like, I don't know, I'm trying not to eat because I want to lose weight. Our body is shut down. Our metabolism has shut down because we're not fueling our body properly with enough energy. So where does that energy come from? It comes from food. The number one energy source for our body is carbohydrates. And I know there are people that hear the word carbs and they're like, I'm not going to listen because I don't want to eat any carbs. We've got to get away from the carbs are bad mindset. Okay, let's talk about the bad carbs real quick. Soda, I'm never gonna say, yeah, soda's great, drink a bunch of it. It's great. It's just not, guys, it's not. We've got to get rid of soda. We just have to. Liquid carbohydrates are some of the worst carbohydrates that we can ingest in our bodies. As a society, we typically consume 250 to 350 grams of carbohydrates per day. Is that a lot? It is. Is that a lot if you're like The Rock and you're like a massive weightlifting muscle dude performance athlete? No, that's not a lot. But for those of us normal humans that aren't freaks of nature, genetic freaks of nature like The Rock, we need a moderate amount of carbohydrates throughout the day for energy sustainability and for muscle growth, for brain function, for proper liver function. And did I say energy yet? I can't remember if I did. For energy, right? Okay, so carbohydrates equal energy. The good carbohydrates can equal energy. Now there's a couple different kinds of carbohydrates. There's simple carbs, there's complex carbs. What's the difference and how do they work? Simple carbs are a lot of times like fruit derived or You look at the like things like honey and things that are fast burning carbohydrates, right? So those are great for a post-workout. Complex carbohydrates are ideal for energy sustainability. These are the kind of carbohydrates that we typically eat at a meal. So these are like our oats, our sweet potatoes, our yams, things like that that are going to give us long-term fuel. Brown rice. So when do we eat what? I'm all fired up over here. You guys know this. You know I love talking about nutrition and carbohydrates. All right. So there's a reason why we talk about pre-workout meals, post-workout meals. So whenever we consume carbohydrates, glucose is released into our bloodstream by the liver, right? So liver primarily stores that glucose. When we overly consume carbohydrates, that's when that abundance of glucose happens in our body. That's where we get high blood sugar. So like someone who's going to the gas station and getting, you know, a large fountain soda that's loaded with 130, 150 grams of sugar in like a giant Coca-Cola fountain soda and consuming that multiple times a day, that is driving that blood sugar up, that blood glucose, because it's the overconsumption of sugar. So first off, that has got to go, right? That overconsumption of sugar. What else is an overconsumption of sugar? Eating a giant donut, eating pizza. These carbohydrates that come in a large amount, a large quantity that we've ingested, and then our body can't keep up. And our liver is like pumping out, you know, trying to get our blood sugar down. That's a lot of times where we have that crash, right? So sometimes at lunch, and we hear about it all the time, that we have that crash after lunch. Well, if we go out to lunch, if you work in an office and you go out to lunch and you eat a big giant cheeseburger and you have a bun and you've consumed, 75 grams of carbohydrates in the bun of your burger and then your side of French fries, and then you're having a big soda, then we're driving up our carbohydrate intake, and that's when our body can't keep up. So that's when we feel that crash. When we don't consume enough carbohydrates. So again, glycogen, liver, stored in the liver. There's a giant science behind it, and I'm not going to go into that today just because it's very, very complex, and I'd like to keep this as simple as I can, as understandable as I can. So when we consume that moderate amount of carbohydrates, our liver doesn't get bogged down. Our liver takes those carbohydrates and turns them into glycogen, which then fuels our brain. Our brain is fueled by carbohydrates. So a lot of times you'll hear, and I'm going to call out keto here. You hear somebody that does keto and they're like, oh my gosh, I have that brain fog. Like I feel so I can't function. It's because your brain is not getting the carbohydrates that it needs to function. I'm going to call out keto again. When we don't consume enough carbohydrates. So first, let's just be really clear on what keto is. Keto is consuming less than 20 grams of carbs per day to the point where your body goes into ketosis, where you're releasing ketones, and those ketones come out through your kidneys, through the liver, and into your bloodstream. You're urinating ketones, and that's supposed to help burn fat. Okay. Those ketones are damaging to our kidneys. So that massive amount of ketones in our bloodstream, there's a reason why diabetics have, there's ketoacidosis. It's a little bit different ketone principle there. But there's a reason why those high amounts of ketones in our blood and our urine are problematic. They're damaging to our kidneys. A lot of times you'll see a correlation between diabetes and kidney failure, end-stage renal disease, things like that, because that high amount of ketones in our blood can actually cause that damage, and therefore our kidneys no longer function. Scary, scary stuff, right? So back to, the carbohydrates. And so when we're consuming that moderate amount of carbohydrates throughout the day from various sources, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, whole grains. I will say, guys, carbohydrates in bread form, like white bread form, are not ideal. And I'm going to talk just really briefly about like what to eliminate, what to consume, and how to fuel your body for weight loss and how to fuel your body for fat loss as well without having to eliminate those kind of things. All right. So hold on. Just going to look at my notes here because I know I have squirrel moments and I don't want to go too far off from where I was going. Okay. So not only do, when we consume those carbs, they're stored in the liver, they're used as energy. When we overly consume them, that's when our liver can't process them the right way, and that's when they're turned into fat. So there is a correlation between consuming too much sugar and body fat, like a rise in body fat, right? So this is what I'm talking about with the sodas, with the sweet tooth things, with the garbage, the crap that we eat. And I say fast food in a bad way always, because a lot of times the fast food that we consume is overly loaded with carbohydrates, and a lot of times it's sugar. That they put dextrose in McDonald's fries because that sugar triggers that addiction, that feel-good feeling. Who doesn't love McDonald's fries, right? But it's because of things like that, the chemicals that they put in our food and the artificial sweeteners and things like that, that trigger that little connection in our brain that goes, oh my gosh, that dopamine, oh my gosh, this tastes delicious, I need to eat more of these. So when we overly consume those carbohydrates, those sugars, those things like that, then our body cannot process them, and that's when we store them as fat. So yes, consuming way too many carbs, this 250 to 350 grams of carbohydrates per day, if you're not making up for it and burning out your glycogen stores in your muscles, aka lifting weights, doing a lot of aerobic activity that's going to replenish, that need to replenish your glycogen stores, then that's when our body will convert those carbohydrates to fat. That's why I talk about The Rock, because he's a genetic freak of nature with his giant muscle mass, and he requires a lot larger ingestion of carbohydrates to fuel his muscle growth, because he tends to deplete his glycogen stores in his muscles. So yes, glycogen, liver, goes to your brain fuel. Glycogen also is stored in our muscles as well. That's what helps our muscles grow. That's what helps us build muscle mass. And that's what helps our body then boost that metabolism when we have that higher muscle mass as well. Okay, another deep breath. I need coffee on this one. Are you guys following along okay? Okay. So let's talk about carbohydrate, muscle growth, and water, and weight loss. So a lot of times when we switch to a no carb diet or an extremely low carb diet, those carbohydrates actually fuel our muscle growth. So carbohydrates act as like a catalyst to help pull water into our muscles, to help our muscles grow. We need muscles. We need water in our muscles to help lubricate our muscles, just like a bike chain. Like that lubrication needs to be on that chain, otherwise it's like grinding. So when we're dehydrated, our muscles are dehydrated, and our body will pull water out of our muscles. So a lot of times when you see somebody who's dehydrated, chronic alcoholism, there's massive amounts of muscle wasting because our body pulls that water out of our muscles. So when we dip into a low carb, no carb diet, our body pulls the water out of our muscles. So a lot of times when we're doing that, we're consuming, all of these high fats and trying to, drink water and, pee all these things out, and we're peeing out ketones and all that stuff. We're peeing out that excess water. So you'll see a weight loss that a lot of it is water weight. So these no carb diets, a lot of the weight loss that they lose is initially it's water weight, because you're not storing that glycogen in your muscles anymore because you've depleted your body of carbohydrates. And the other reason is water, and then muscle mass. Your muscle mass has also depleted because our body will pull from that muscle mass to use muscle as energy too, because we're not getting energy from other sources. So weight loss from water weight loss from muscle mass. As someone who's studying sports nutrition currently, I will tell you that we need those carbohydrates for performance. As athletes, we need carbohydrates for performance. And studies have been shown that athletes who deplete their body of carbohydrates suffer from massive amounts of poor performance, difficulty achieving their goals, difficulty performing. Runners, and you guys know this, talk to a marathoner, talk to somebody who runs races. They have to consume carbohydrates on a consistent basis during their runs to keep their energy levels up and to keep their muscles working and to keep their body fueled, so they don't pass out, and so they stay hydrated as well. Okay, let me take a look here. Okay, so benefits of carbohydrates. We know several things. Energy levels, very important. Fiber is huge. So when we do these no carb, low carb diets, a lot of times we eliminate things that we need for fiber. So I've heard that these no, low carb, keto type diets, you're not consuming much fiber at all. So they're substituting with with higher amounts of coffee. Coffee helps with constipation, right? When you're not consuming enough fiber, our colon, let's get real technical here, our colon is depleted of hydration as well. And we don't have that fiber that helps bulk up our stools and allow our body to have normal bowel movements. So a lot of times when when you're consuming a large amount of cheese, because cheese doesn't have carbohydrates in it, you're consuming that big amount of cheese, you're not consuming any fiber-rich fruits or things like that, then we fall into constipation. So we have to fix that problem, the constipation problem. And a lot of times people fix it with keto type coffee. And coffee is also a diuretic, which also pulls water off. So then you're constipated and you're dehydrated and you don't have any energy and you don't have energy for your workouts. I could rant on that all day. Okay. Carbohydrates give us energy. Carbohydrates help fuel our muscles, help fuel our muscle growth. When we have more muscle mass, there's less room for body fat. When we have more muscle mass, then our body has a higher metabolism. When you have more muscle in your body burns a lot more and you're able to not only consume a higher caloric range if you have more muscle mass, but you're able to see that metabolism work in your favor to where you can say, you know what, well, I'll give you guys my example. So I've always been very, very skinny, but with skinny fat for a long time. So meaning I had, 117 pounds, 35% body fat percentage. So I really struggled with, I was skinny, but I was flabby, if that makes sense. I just had a lot more fat on my body because I didn't have any muscle mass. That was because I never worked out. That was because I used to drink a lot of alcohol when I was a bartender. My nutrition was garbage. I ate fast food all the time and I was dehydrated a lot. And I just didn't consume the right amount of nutrition in order to fuel my body properly. And I had a lot of muscle wasting and had a higher body fat percentage. Okay. So since I have incorporated consistent weight training, regular aerobic and anaerobic exercise, I have seen my muscle mass grow. And in turn, what used to be a 12 to 1500 calorie diet is now an 1800 to 2500 calorie diet. And I'm going to post a picture later for Transformation Tuesday on my personal Facebook page. I've been able to consume a lot more calories and still maintain and then build and grow my body and allow for things like Cinco de Mayo on Sunday, where I ate a whole bunch of tacos and chips and dip and margaritas and things like that, all of the sugary carbs and stuff that we're not supposed to eat. But when you have that balance and when you can say, okay, you know what, I can have all of these things and I can still work toward my goals and find a balance in the middle, it's extremely important. Okay, I'm going to try to wrap this up as best I can. All right, so how do we do moderation? How do we consume carbohydrates and not feel like oh my gosh, I'm gonna wreck my progress. Oh my gosh, society's telling me right now that I'm not supposed to eat any carbs. Like, how do I eat carbs and still have weight loss and still have all of the other things? Well, first, I'll say it again, exercise is key. We've got to get our bodies moving. Even if that means if you're not doing anything right now for exercise, get up and go for a walk. Move your body, get your heart rate pumping, do some jumping jacks, do some push-ups, do some squats. Spend 5 to 20 minutes a day. There's tons. If you're using Beachbody On Demand, there are hundreds and hundreds of workouts on there. Tony Horton has a 10-minute trainer on there. Commit to 10 minutes a day. Start somewhere. And if you can start with 1 pound weights, 2 pound weights, we've got to start moving our body, and we've got to start increasing the resistance in our muscles to build that muscle mass. So in turn, we can help raise our metabolism and we can help our body naturally burn body fat. We've got to consume carbs regularly throughout the day. Yes, you can do a lower carb approach. Now, if we typically as a society consume 250 to 350 grams of carbohydrates per day, we know that that is too many a lot of times for us for weight loss, but a lot of times what we're consuming are unhealthy carbohydrates. So take a look at your carbohydrate sources. Okay, am I consuming soda? Got to get rid of it. And am I consuming a lot of like processed foods, chips, sugary treats, snacks? Really take a look. Those of you that are doing Ultimate Portion Fix and you have this logbook, write it down and write down everything that you put in your mouth for the next week. And including, you put creamer in your coffee that has sugar in it. Write that down and take a look at what you're consuming. Use your portion containers for those of you that are doing Portion Fix or that have the containers. Use these things, measure out, use your yellow container to measure out your serving size of carbohydrates. Because a lot of times we're like, oh, well, I'm just going to eat a sweet potato. Sweet potatoes are good. And it's like a sweet potato that's the size of your face. And then you're actually consuming a lot more carbohydrates than what your body needs at that time. Moderation, again. So we talk about balanced macronutrients. We talk about consuming your carbohydrates in the morning. Maybe you're eating oats or something with breakfast. You're having fruit. Fruit is great. Fruit is good for you. Fruit is good. The antioxidants, the fiber, I talked about the fiber and the constipation earlier. Fruit helps with that. We underconsume fiber as a society. We typically consume about 12 grams of fiber per day on average. We need about 30 to 50. So bulk up your fiber. Eat things like fresh berries. Berries are rich in fiber and rich in antioxidants and great for our body. And they're a lot lower in carbohydrates as well. So it's a great, great source of natural plant-based energy that you can consume that's really going to help with fiber, that's really going to help with indigestion, that's really going to help you fuel your body and fuel your muscles in the right way too. Your lunchtime and dinner time meals, don't hesitate to have carbohydrates at those meals. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I heard that you're not supposed to eat carbohydrates too late in the day. Yes, you should not eat a giant bowl of sugary ice cream at 8 p.m. Nobody should. Yes, you should not eat, a loaf of bread for dinner or have, an adult grilled cheese with 4 stacks of Texas toast and a whole bunch of stuff like that. No, we shouldn't. But if we're eating carbohydrates in moderation, if we're consuming that 50 is pretty low. Like if you're carb cycling, 50 is on the lower end. But if we're typically 100 to 150 grams of carbohydrates per day, or you can do this calculation, 1 to 1.2 grams of carbohydrates per pound of body weight that you are. So for me, 125 pounds, 150 pounds is like 150 grams of carbohydrates is kind of my ideal baseline consumption per day. So a sweet potato, a medium-sized sweet potato is anywhere from, well, if you use your yellow container, that's about 35 to 50 grams of carbohydrates. You get carbohydrates from fruits and veggies. Veggies are a great source of a great food to consume that's going to help you feel a little bit more full too. I'm never going to say, I wouldn't have too many servings of veggies if I were you, because a lot of times we don't eat enough veggies, and that's where that fiber comes into play. So lunchtime nutrition, if you're having a big salad and you're like, no, I'm going to be really hungry, might as well throw an extra cup of lettuce on there. great, do it. Throw some spinach on there, some kale, something, peppers, that's going to give you that extra source of fiber and carbohydrates from vegetables that's not going to overdo it like you're eating a loaf of bread. Same thing at dinner time. If you've gotten used to using riced veggies, maybe you're having stir fry. Yeah, use that yellow container of brown rice, but then double up and add another container of veggies in there. And if you've finished your meal, first drink, 10 ounces of water before you eat. After you've finished your meal, drink. Why is there an ant on my desk? Oh my gosh. Squirrel. If you have finished your meal and you're still hungry, drink another 10-ounce glass of water, give it 10 to 15 minutes, and have another serving of veggies. Add another serving of cauliflower rice. Cut up a pepper and eat that. Eat a handful of, fresh, what was I going to say? Broccoli or carrots. And then sometimes when we pair those healthy fats with that, it actually helps with satiety, which means we feel a lot more full. So, lunchtime, add that avocado to your salad. Add that spoonful of peanut butter in your oatmeal at breakfast time, or stir in a spoonful of coconut oil. Cook with your extra virgin olive oils, your coconut oil, your avocado oil, and things like that at dinner time. And don't forget about those nuts and seeds, those little orange containers. You're adding those sunflower seeds to your salad, or you're adding sesame seeds to your dinner at night. And that will really help maintain that hunger throughout the day and long term. Lots of information coming at you guys today. I think it's important that we address it, especially going into this month. And I really wanted to cover a lot of questions that were asked and that have been asked. So if you didn't get to catch the whole thing, go back and watch. Again, you're not going to be quizzed on this, but understand that fueling our body is key for weight loss. Understand that we've got to consume enough nutrition to help kickstart our metabolism. So if we're not eating enough, a lot of times that's a struggle, right? Like, well, I'm not going to eat too much because I don't want to gain weight. But what we really need to do is kickstart our metabolism. If you're working out at least once a day and you're burning 300 to 500 calories, know that you're going to get that caloric burn in your overall caloric consumption throughout the day. Know that what you put in your body is going to be used as energy. And guys, just think about it like fuel for your car. Like if we put crap in our gas tank, we can't expect our car to run, right? If we put crap in our body, we can't expect our body to function properly. My purpose as a coach, as someone who studies, nutrition, and someone who has, been on this roller coaster of dieting and quick fixes and stuff in the past, it's really just to educate all of you on how to do this and expect results and get results long term. If it took, if it took 10 years to put the weight on, you can't expect it to all melt away in the first 30 days. Know that it takes time, and I want you to learn how to do it the right way instead of depleting your body of important nutrients that it needs to function. And it's a trial and error process too sometimes. So, maybe you're eating at the 1500 to 1800 caloric range right now. And you're like, Ashley, it's been a month and I'm just really not seeing the progress that I thought I was going to see. Can you help me? Yes, that's my job. Yes, that's what I do. Yes, please reach out to me. Please talk to me if there's something that you're struggling with, or, maybe you're looking at your nutrition and you're like, I just don't feel like I'm getting enough of this, or I feel like I'm eating too much of this, or how do you help me balance this mentally so I understand how to consume the right things for my body? I'll tell you again, the sugar consumption of the things that we consume that are loaded with sugar, that are like high fructose corn syrup. If you see that on anything, just avoid that. That does nothing for our body. So like salad dressings, high fructose corn syrup, get rid of it. We don't need it. It's that fake sugary stuff that literally it makes our body sluggish and slows us down, and it's no good. things that we can consume. Try to avoid processed foods. Try to cook fresh when you can. Frozen fruits and frozen veggies are a lifesaver. And get your carbohydrates from wholesome sources. There's a ton of food lists. If you are following a program, you can dive into your food list. If you're following Ultimate Portion Fix, you can dive into your food list. But know that doing it the right way, you can achieve weight loss through consistency with your nutrition and through taking care of your body and jump-starting your metabolism and fueling your body the right way. Depending on your weight, our caloric consumption varies there too. So if you're like, I need to lose 80 pounds, I'm only going to eat 1,200 calories, your body's not getting enough nutrients to function and to kickstart your metabolism. You're going to need to increase that caloric range. This old mindset of 1,200 calories a day is really a thing of the past. And I'm really hoping that this mindset of we can't eat any carbs because carbs are bad for us is a thing of the past soon too. Because truthfully, in order for our body to function at a primal level, as it's been functioning for years, we need a little bit of everything. So look at paleo. Look at Whole30, things like that. We still consume carbohydrates in moderate amounts, and I'm starting to lose my voice already. Oh my gosh. But anyway, all right, guys, I'll let you go. I took up enough of your time today, but any questions, please post in the comments. Take time to go back and watch this again. Take notes if you need to. And it really is one workout, one day, one meal at a time. And when we can do this together and have the accountability of a group, it really, really makes a big difference. So don't hesitate to ask any questions that you have. Thanks again for jumping on. I do appreciate it. You guys have a great day.